like to welcome you to this walk through Romans. Let me just say, if you want to help us out, hit the like button. If you want to continue to receive notifications of the videos that we're producing, hit the subscribe button. And then if you're on, especially on Facebook, share these teachings with someone else. I believe that the Word of God changes a person's life, and that's what we're teaching. We're teaching the Word of God. Share it with someone else, and you can change a person's life just by hitting that little share button. Anyway, let's get into the Word of God today. We're in Romans, the 4th chapter. If you haven't taken the opportunity to watch this week, go back to Monday and begin watching, because Abraham has been talking, or excuse me, not Abraham. Paul has been talking to us about righteousness by faith. And then when we comes to the last verses of Romans 4, the Apostle Paul gives us a beautiful understanding of what faith is. You know, a lot of people, when they talk about faith, they go to Hebrews, the 11th chapter. And rightly so. It's a wonderful, wonderful chapter. All the books and chapters of the Bible are wonderful. But here the Apostle Paul is giving us a real strong definition of what faith is. Faith is believing what God said. Faith is hoping first. We talked about how when God speaks, hope comes in. And then faith is then released to bring that, what God said, to bring that promise of God into reality in our life. We covered that in our last 3 sessions. So go back and listen to them. But now in verse number 21, the Apostle Paul, in Romans, the 4th chapter, verse number 21, he says this, and being fully assured that what God had promised. What's he doing? He's talking about what Abraham had. Abraham had on the inside of him a full assurance. A full assurance. Let me just say this to you as a man who's walked in faith for a long time. Let me say this to you. Faith is not a blind step. Faith is a step onto something that never moves. It's the Word of God. It's the rock. It's the foundation of our lives. When you walk in faith, you walk with a complete assurance that what God has said to you will happen. Notice that the Apostle Paul says, being fully assured. Fully assured. Means completely. There's a complete assurance that in this next step that God's going to come through, that God's going to do what he promised. It's knowing what he promised and then stepping out in full assurance, not wavering, not wondering, oh, is it going to happen? No. It's stepping out with full assurance that what God said will happen. And then he goes on and he says, and that he is able to perform it. Let me ask you a question. How much can God do? Is there a limit to his strength? Is there a limit to his ability? Is there a limit to his finances? You know, when we get to heaven, you know what? We're going to be walking around on pavement of gold. You know, I heard a guy said one time, he said, when I get to heaven, I'm going to put bubble gum on the bottom of my shoes. Well, first of all, we don't know if bubble gum is going to be in heaven or not, but we asked him, why are you putting bubble gum on the bottom? He said, I'm collecting all the gold. And then you think about it, you know what? All he's doing is collecting pavement. Is there a limit to what God can do? Is there a limit to how he can bless you financially? Oh, brother, you can't believe for that. Why not? God said it. I'm going to have it. I'm going to believe it. I'm going to step out in full assurance of faith. Do you understand? Abraham believed that God could do anything. Now, let me just say this. God didn't do it the way Abraham thought he would do it. And you know, a lot of times that's our problem. We say, God, heal me. It's your will for me to be healed. It's your word. It's your promise. Now do it tomorrow. Do it in the next hour. No, that's not always the will of God. It's not always his plan. Do you understand that we put our faith in the promise? We don't put our faith in our timetable. And I know a lot of believers that have gotten very discouraged because they've set up a timetable. God, I need this money and I need it right now. How many of you know God knows what you need? And he sees the time that you need it. And he's able and he will provide. Now the next verse, we need to hurry on just a little bit here. Verse number 22. Therefore, it was accredited to him as righteousness. What was accredited to him? Righteousness. His faith. His putting his faith and trust in God. And what did Abraham receive for that? He received righteousness. Let me tell you something. I believe that God has promised us healing. I believe he's promised us prosperity and finances. I believe he's promised us joy and peace and all of those things. But let me say this to you. The greatest promise of God for you is that if you will believe, you will receive righteousness. You see, this world is passing away. If you live to be 100, you know what? 100 is nowhere close to eternity. Do you understand? But righteousness, receiving the righteousness of God, will set your destiny for the rest of not your life, but of eternity. I hope and pray that if you're an unbeliever listening to this today, that you are trusting Jesus and trusting in his sacrifice, that you're believing in it, and that you are receiving the righteousness of God. Thank you for watching. Join us again tomorrow.